How many times have you heard me say communists only understand fear and pain? We've talked about this over and over and over and over again. We're about to talk about it again. We're about to talk about the why, because there is something wonderful happening, and we need to give credit where credit is due. Let me first get this out of the way, in case you happen to be a new viewer of us here on I'm Right. I don't wave pom-poms for people. I don't. Nobody. No politician, no nothing. They're all just rental cars to me. Use them to get where you're going and then dump them, just because that's exactly what they'll do to you. And so even when we have the administration we want, when we don't see the results we want, we yell. But we also need to give out credit where credit is due. We've been yelling about the necessity for government people to be arrested. Not the latest gang bang or this, that stuff is fine. People in government, communists, using the system for their own nefarious goals must be arrested. Let me go ahead and get this out of the way again. If Trump's 4 years ends without government people in prison, no matter what else happens, trade, border, what else, his 4 years will have been a failure. And I say that not to be harsh. I say that because rooting out the communist cancer inside the government is the most important goal by a mile. The border can just be unsecured again by these people if you leave them where they are. Trade can be destroyed again by these people if you leave them where they are. Inflation, go down the list. All these problems we're fixing all come right back without government people going to prison. So let's discuss what we're seeing here. We have 2 judges arrested last week, 2 of them. One of these ladies, this Dugan out of Milwaukee, listen to what she did.
The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Why would she do that? This is going to be the fear and pain portion. A judge? A judge just aided a felon escaping law enforcement. Why would she do that? Well, this is important. This is important for understanding why we have to arrest communists, why they only understand fear and pain. So let me again explain it this way. Politics is probably what you do, not who you are. Let me explain. That's a good thing. And I'm not doubting your beliefs on what you want out of government or don't want out of government. I know you probably believe it all the way. But it's not your entire life, is it? I'm glad you join us every single night here watching I'm Right. I appreciate that very much. But you have other things in your life, family, work, church. You have a life outside of it. It's not your religion. You don't look to it every minute of every day, do you? Of course you don't. I hope you don't. But see, this is the separation between us and the communists. The communist does. He does. It is everything to him. He will show up in every election. He will peruse the news. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that sounded good. And he will sit there and just get angrier and angrier and angrier all day long. I got to do something. Ah! He is a religious zealot in every sense of the word. If you want to understand how these people think, you should actually look to radical Islam. It's the closest I've ever seen. These jihadis who walk into a theater with a nail bomb and blow themselves up, the American Democrat more closely resembles that person than anyone else in your life, certainly closer to him than he ever could be to you. Politics, power, destruction is everything to the communist. And so the communist, he doesn't set aside his communism when he gets really important jobs, important roles. This is how we get confused. This is why we get confused. Maybe you woke up and you saw a headline of a judge whisking away an illegal to escape custody, and you thought to yourself, What? That's unbelievable. Did you say anything like that? Unbelievable. Well, it's very, very believable. Did you think Dugin sees herself as a judge just because she went through law school and jumped through all the hoops and had this long legal career, and now she wears these judge's robes and has a really important job? Do you think she sees herself as a judge first? She doesn't see herself as a judge first. She's a communist first. It's her religion. Everything else is secondary. It doesn't matter whether she puts on a judge's robes, a general's uniform. Doesn't matter whether she puts on the uniform of a Cub Scout leader, a newsman, a politician, an FBI agent. Communism always comes first. Everything else is a side issue. Everything else is ancillary. In fact, the communist is usually pretty honest, as Dugin once was. They really only got that role. They only sought out that role to push more communism.
The law is a real challenge in making sure that justice happens for people. It's transformative in people's lives, but it also, especially in the United States, it's considered a stabilizing force. It's something that keeps us on a constant path. The rule of law is how we address our social issues, how we address our disputes, but also how we grow as people. I, as a person who, for a couple decades almost, represented low-income people, it is due process that really equalizes those differences between people. Then we're able to achieve that equal justice that we are promised and hope to have continue despite our differences, despite our class differences, despite our racial and religious differences.
Does she sound like a woman who sits down there on the bench just trying to do a judge's job, the way a judge is supposed to do it? Or does that sound like a 100% committed communist who sought out the role of judge in order to push communism every single place she went? It doesn't matter what uniform, what skin suit the communist puts on. He's always a communist first. That's why you walk in Aiden, Jaden, and Braden's second grade classroom and you see the teacher there with pink hair, a bunch of rings in her face, a Black Lives Matter poster trying to teach your sons how to be gay. They didn't seek out the role as teacher so they could teach. They sought it out so they could push communism. And if they have to do some teaching along the way, that's fine. But that brings me back to the point of why this is so important and why we should applaud it. And I know what you're saying. It's just the start. It's just the very beginning. I know. This is just the tip. This is just the beginning. There are so many more arrests needed. But you see, because he's a religious zealot who never can set his communism aside, the only chance you have at stopping him in his revolutionary efforts is fear and pain. It's all he will ever understand. Solzhenitsyn talked about it, having been a victim of communism, a member of the gulags. He called communists the enemies of the human race. And he said, all they understand is the big fist. And the harder you hit them, the safer they will be. Now, we don't like thinking like that or talking like that on the right. It makes us uncomfortable. But these people, unless they have to wake up on Monday morning and open up social media and look at videos of other communists being arrested for their crimes, will never, ever, ever stop. They can't. They have to know something will hurt them. My dog, it's just like your dog. Table scraps, food that gets dropped on the floor. He's going to get it. He can't help it. It's in his instincts. It's in his nose. When he smells it, he can't help it. Now, what's the only way? The only way I will get my dog to stop running for a fry when my sons purposely drop it on the ground. I have to discipline him in some way. I don't know, whip him with the newspaper, something, yell at him, something. Unless I find a way to give him pain, fear, he will never stop. The American communist is just like the Soviet communist, the Chinese communist, the Cambodian communist, the Canadian communist. They're all the same. They will never, ever, ever, ever stop because they are religious zealots and they are communists first. It's why these press conferences like the one Tom Holman gave are actually very, very valuable.
Any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of the communities. And ICE has been clear, we're targeting public safety threats and national security threats. I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us. But ICE have from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted, judge or not.
Which brings me to something else I want us to understand as we wrap this thing up, because Governor J.B. Pritzker said something that was pretty revealing of how these people think. Before I show it to you, I want to say this. Remember, the reason they're like this, part of the reason they're like this is communism is now and always will be a revolutionary ideology, religion, however you want to put it. I'll call it a religion. It's revolutionary. It first got going in the Soviet Union, in Russia, as a revolutionary movement, revolting against the czars, revolting against this. It's always billed as revolutionary. When Mao did it, they were revolting against the system they had in China at the time. Pol Pot, same thing here. America's Democrats, exact same thing here. Revolutionary. And because it's revolutionary, the idea is tear down the existing power structures, tear down everything. What exists, everything in power that exists is bad, and our revolution has to tear it down. That's how these people think. And so even when they're in critical positions of power, like judge, even president, senator, or governor of Illinois, they speak as revolutionaries.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
They can't help it. It's in their bones. Revolutionary, religious zealots. Arrest them everywhere you find them committing crimes. They will always commit crimes because, again, the idea is to break the system they're in. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right